let's face it, a lot of the pain, hurt, disappointment, betrayal that we went through actually happened to us in the hands of a person or in the hands of people. And because of that, we generally continue life with an attitude of being defensive, with an attitude of lack of trust, or sometimes we end up facing negative cycles of heartbreak after heartbreak, rejection after rejection, wrong choice after wrong choice. Tonight, we're going to have an empowering conversation that tells us that it's possible for us to be able to take charge again, to be able to turn around the situation and sit on the driver's seat of our lives as far as relationship is concerned. Because you know what? Life will happen to you on the basis of the kind of relationships that you have or the kind of relationships that you form. And many of us go through situations and circumstances where people are the ones who choose us. Well, that's okay. That's only half of the story. It's important for you to be able to make a choice so that even as you get into relationships, then it becomes a win-win for you and for the other person. That's the conversation we are having tonight. We're talking about take charge, gaining mastery for your relationships. My name is Judy Mzungu Jabali. I am the founder of the ReAlignment program, and I am a Kingdom Life Coach. I just want to say welcome to Safarini with Judy Mzungu, where we talk about empowering one another, encouraging one another, and influencing one another so that we can make it in the game of life. This we do every Monday from 8:30 to 9 o'clock through empowering conversations that come to inspire, to influence, and to impart life skills that will take you to the cutting edge of life. Again, I just want to say karibu sana. If you're here, and I know that you're going to have a blast, by the way. I believe that this is a conversation that's going to empower you. And so I just want to encourage you, kindly invite someone on the comment box, begin to call your friends, begin to call your family, begin to call your significant other, anyone that you know is important to you, because I know that this conversation is going to be important. And so just for a moment, allow me to talk about a program that I run. It's called the ReAlignment program. The ReAlignment program is a Bible-based healing and self-discovery program that actually encourages you to find your true identity, guides you through the journey of your life, to come to that place where you can truly know your purpose and truly have a vision for your life. And so it's a 10-week program, and we're starting the next cohort this coming Friday. But that's besides the point. If you'd like us to talk about the ReAlignment program, the contact will be right there. For tonight, let's talk about taking charge, gaining mastery for our relationships. Like I said earlier, too many times we get into relationships, we get into friendships almost like a happenstance. Someone else has to make a choice and say that, yes, we are worth it. Yes, we are worth their time. And well, that's okay. The problem with that kind of a situation is because the other person made the choice, you didn't. They knew what they wanted, you didn't know what you wanted. And so because of that, it does not end up becoming a win-win relationship, which is essential, by the way, for a healthy and fulfilling relationship. And for us to be able to come to that place where we can truly make a choice as far as our relationships are concerned. And please broaden your mind. Don't just think boy-girl relationships. I'm thinking about friendships. I'm thinking about associations. I'm thinking about the people that we make a choice to introduce into our lives. And it's important for us to be able to make very intentional and conscious decisions. Why? Because our destiny, our purpose is very aligned to the kind of people that we will allow into our lives. So, the first thing that we must be able to do is to understand that we must make a choice. And for you to be able to make that choice, you have to truly know who you are. You have to have a sense of identity. I know you'll ask me, Judy, what does it mean to have a sense of identity? In case you haven't watched a video that we did some time ago, Who Am I? identity crisis. Kindly go it. I think we aired it about 3 weeks ago. But just for the sake of tonight's conversation, I'd like us to know and understand that it's important, first and foremost, that you understand your values. If you don't understand your values, you have no checklist to be able to know who do you allow into your life in the first place. So when I talk about understanding your values, what's important to you? Is it money? And that's okay, by the way. Is it family? Is it your faith? Is it achievement? It's important for you to kind of understand what is important to me, so that you're not carried around by every kind of association and what it is that they believe, but what is your belief system? And that's the next thing. You have to understand, one, what are your values? Two, what is your belief system? Because if you're not very conscious of your belief system, you will be driven by another person's belief system. So it's important for you to understand, what are my values? What's important to me? What do I really believe? What drives me? And then thirdly, you must be able to understand, what is your vision? I'll tell you the truth. The reason why many of us are not able to take charge as far as relationships and the people that we allow into our lives are concerned is because we don't know our values, we don't know our beliefs, and truthfully speaking, we don't even know where we are going. When you have a sense of identity, when you understand your beliefs, when you understand your values, when you understand where you're going, that will enable you to make a choice about who do you allow into your life? How far do they go? But then what is the reason why? What happens that now we come to that place, or people come to that place where they honestly don't understand their belief systems, they don't understand their values, they don't have a vision? Mostly it happens because of something that happened to us in the past. And that's where I talked about the things that happened to us. It happened in the hands of people. And so we must be able to undo that so that we can be able then to take charge. So when you don't have a sense of identity, what will happen? You won't have a sense of self-worth, meaning that you will not be able to attach value to who you are. And because you're not able to attach value to who you are, guess what? You accept bad treatment. Have you ever seen a situation where people keep telling, maybe especially this happens in, romantic relationships, and one person obviously is being mistreated, and everyone around them can see that, you know what, this lady or this gentleman needs to come out of this relationship. But they just don't have the capacity to leave those relationships. What is the problem? Those people simply don't have a sense of self-worth. And it comes because they don't have a sense of self-identity. Personally, this is my personal belief, by the way. It's not my business to tell such a person to jump out of that relationship. Why? Unless you are empowered. Even if you leave that relationship today, chances are 2-3 months later, you'll be back there. Chances are, even if you leave that relationship without proper guidance to be able to help you to find your sense of empowerment, to empower you, to be able to see your sense of self-worth, guess what? You will get into another similar relationship, maybe even slightly worse. When they talk about out of the frying pan into the fire, that's what happens. Not because these people are necessarily bad people, but their sense of identity has been taken out. And that then affected their sense of self-worth. But tonight, we are having a conversation that I believe will just be, let me say, like a small capsule to help you to just reevaluate your life. And begin to reevaluate your choices, and begin to reevaluate whether are you sitting on the driver's seat as far as relationships are concerned. What also happens when someone doesn't have a sense of self-identity? They seem to find attachment to sometimes a job, sometimes a marriage, Sometimes a relationship, that's why you see sometimes you have ever seen people who just seem to get from one relationship, it doesn't work out. They don't even give themselves time for a break. They're into another relationship, then into another relationship. It's because they don't have a sense of identity. So they are pegging their whole identity on a relationship, on another person. So this person becomes like a crutch in their lives. What also tends to happen is that I'm talking about attachment. Sometimes some people, and they may seem successful for a bit, but it's okay, by the way, no problem with success, but there is a huge problem. When your identity is based on money, when your identity is based on a job, there's a huge problem, by the way. When your identity is based on a marriage, when your identity is based on your children, because you become a burden even to the other people around you. That's why it's very necessary for people to find healing, so that then even you are able to have a wholesome relationship, first and foremost with yourself. Why? Because you know yourself. Two, then you place God in the right place, and then you place another human being in the right place. If you miss that out, you will have a healthy attachment to another person. You end up being a burden to this person, and should anything go wrong, we almost cannot be able to salvage you. What is the other result of not having a sense of identity? You simply don't know how to say no or stop. Have you ever seen people who they don't have boundaries? People call them nice, but they are taken advantage of. And truthfully speaking, they suffer a lot of burnout. If you're there and you can see yourself in any of these categories that I have talked about, just type something, say, I see myself, I'm here to find help, my story is turning around. Just tell me something to know that tonight I am not alone. That I've been there, and I speak to people because I'm a Kingdom Life Coach. I talk to people day in, day out. These are the challenges that people face. But tonight I came by the grace of God to empower people and say that the story must change to the glory of God. So, for you to be able to take charge, the first thing is you have to be able to reclaim your identity. You have to remember who you are. Before all those things happened, before that betrayal happened, before that disappointment happened, who were you? Sorry about that. Then secondly, you have to change your perspective. You have to make a choice that says, this happened, but it doesn't define me. Yes, I may have gone through that pain, through that hurt, through that disappointment, but there's a way that you can change the lens through which you see it. And so that then that situation does not hold you captive, but then you are able then to rise above it. And then thirdly, once you are so empowered, one, you have reclaimed your identity. Two, you have changed your perspective. Three, then we can begin to have a conversation about you beginning to understand how to maneuver different levels of relationships. If this is a blessing to you, type something to encourage me so that I can go on for the next few minutes. But let me tell you what, personally, where I am at, I'm just getting blessed and happy, and I'm happy doing this. And so I just want you to encourage me. Type yes, say yes, speaking to me, just do something, tell me something so that I know, you know what, we are together and we are on the right track. And so for us to be able to understand and even talk about, for the next few minutes that I have, I want us to talk about you now being able to understand how to maneuver different levels of relationships. And that conversation is going to be pegged on Jesus' model. Remember, I said I'm a Kingdom Life Coach. And so we are going to largely base our focus on Luke chapter 9 and chapter 10. And so the first thing that I want us to realize is that the first level, the reason why actually most of you or most of us suffer in relationships is because you want to treat everyone the same. And that opens you up to a lot of pain. That opens you up to a lot of betrayal. And so tonight, by the grace of God, I want to talk to you about having levels of relationships. And the first thing I want you to point you out is Luke chapter 9, verse 10 to 17, where Jesus fed the 5,000. I want you to realize that when Jesus fed the 5,000, after he fed them and he finished, remember that, in fact, I believe in Matthew, one of the Gospels, it says that Jesus had compassion on them. That means that one of the things that we must have is love, compassion, the ability to feel and empathize with others. Jesus had that. And so when he realized that these people were weak, he served them. Meaning, in the journey of life, you will encounter people who sometimes you will never encounter again. But you do have a responsibility. If they are faint and you have the resource that they need to be able to rise up again, offer it. Serve it to them. Love on them. That is you loving on them. But after you finish, have no expectations. The challenge is sometimes we stay there a little longer than we should, waiting for thank you, appreciation, whatever. That's where we begin to go wrong. And then you hear people saying you can't trust people, people are not grateful. You are there to serve. And after you finish serving, please make peace and walk away. You finished your purpose. Isn't it interesting that Mark Zuckerberg gave us a limit of 5,000 people on social media? For you to go and air your dirty linen on social media, there's something wrong with you, because those are strangers. They are not your friends. Unless you're very sure what it is that you want to achieve out of sharing your story, don't make it your business to put out your personal life on social media. Don't make it your business to put out every detail on social media. Again, these are strangers. The second level of relationships I want to talk about, I'll be very fast because of time. The second level of relationships I want to talk about are acquaintances. And for that, I want us to look at Luke chapter 10 from verse 1 to 22. And you'll realize that Jesus, after he had fed the 5,000, as he moves forward, he goes and he meets with people that definitely he had encountered before. And because he knew them and he had encountered them before, what did he do? He served them whatever he had. And then he allowed them to imbibe from him whatever they could. He understood. One thing about acquaintances, he understood what level of information to give them. These are people that had been around him. That's why he could trust them with power to go and heal the sick, to go and, chase out demons. And these people came back and they said, you know what, we're able to do what you did. We're able to do what you did. What does that mean? That Jesus actually, yes, there was some level of interaction. But I want to tell you something, that Jesus didn't trust these people fully. Let's go to Luke chapter 10, verse 23 very fast. It says, then he turned to his disciples and said privately. Yes, he had hung out with them. Yes, he had imparted whatever he could, but he knew there's some information that I can't give. Africans, Black Africans. Do you know one of the greatest reasons that brings us down is because we have a herd mentality, HERD, want to go with all our family members. Our brothers, sisters, cousins, uncles, aunties, grandfather, grandmother, we have, and that, by the way, is one of the things that for us is going to be a detriment, because as we think about all these people, we don't check out their values, and our own values. We don't check our beliefs, and we don't understand whether do we have the same vision. Just the fact that you are probably blood brothers, blood sisters, does not necessarily mean that you're headed in the same direction. And I'm not saying hate them, no. I'm only saying if there's some level of information, sometimes you may have to withhold, sometimes from your relatives. Yes, they are your relatives. Yes, you will interact with them. Yes, you will meet them at the family functions. But how much information do they have? He turned to his disciples and he said privately. If this conversation is blessing you, kindly type something for me so that I can know that you are understanding what I'm saying and it's blessing you. And more importantly, kindly share it for me on your walls, on your WhatsApp groups, whatever, so that we get as many people as possible to watch with us and also get blessed. Then the third level of relationships, remember, he turned to his disciples at the team. Now, the team here are the disciples. I want you to understand that Jesus spoke to his disciples, or he actually literally, took charge, sat on the driver's seat and chose his disciples. I want you to understand that you cannot choose your team if you don't have a vision. You cannot choose your team if you don't have your identity, and that's where most of us miss it. Jesus understood that he needed fishers of men, so he went looking for fishermen. Problem is, we don't know who we are to allow into our lives, to come into our space and understand where we are going. Because truthfully speaking, we haven't sat down to think about the vision. And it's time for us to really sit down and have a conversation with ourselves. Because unless we are able to change that story about what's going on inside of us, we cannot change what goes on around us. You cannot set out to a cabinet if you don't have an agenda. You cannot run a company if you, as the CEO, don't understand the vision of your organization. So just for a moment, think about yourself as the CEO of your own life. Do you understand where you are going? Think about yourself, maybe running a government. Do you understand the agenda of your cabinet? Because that is going to determine who you allow into your life and how far they go. I'm talking about take charge. You can only take charge. And so that once you're able to understand who you are, you're able to understand, change your perspective, and then now we can begin to maneuver the different levels of relationships. After we are done with the team, and I want you to understand, by the way, the team is not formed based on emotions. It's not an emotional decision. The team is chosen because you understand your vision, you understand these people's strengths. Now, sometimes when I talk about it, people think I'm talking about using people. No, far from it. Ideally, it should be a win-win. But even when it's a win-win, sometimes you can find, let me give you a perfect example. There's a good friend of mine, and she was doing very, very well financially. In terms of business, she's way ahead. So she was able to speak life to me as far as business is concerned, because she would sit down and ask me, Judy, you need to ask yourself, how much are you allocating yourself in your business as a coach? And so what was the exchange for us? As far as faith is concerned, because of my experiences, maybe, and everything else that was concerned, again, maybe because of my calling, she would always say, every time I'm going through a challenge, I know, Judy, if I call you, You will be able to encourage me. You give me strength. That was the exchange. But anytime she needed a business decision, guess what? I'm not the right candidate for her because I'm not operating at the level she's operating in. So it got to a point that even her, she began to tell me, I need to get someone who can mentor me so that I can go to another level. I'm giving you this story so that you can understand that we are not talking about you using people. We're talking about symbiotic relationships that are win-win relationships. And you must also understand that sometimes the exchange is very different. But you have to be intentional about your relationships so that you can benefit from them as much as the other people are also benefiting from you being in their lives. Then I want us to talk about the inner circle very fast. Now, when we talk about the inner circle, we're talking about Peter, John, and James in Jesus' life. Remember that Peter, John, and James were with Jesus when he said, let us go over to the gatherings. At the height of Jesus' ministry, when he was at the mountain of transfiguration, Peter, John, and James were with him. When things were thick at the Garden of Gethsemane, who was with Jesus? Peter, John, and James. Who is with you? Who you know can go with you through the highs and the lows. Because I'm speaking to believers, I believe, even if you're not, I really want us to understand that these are people not for talking. It is not a team of, what is it called? People who are just teammates. Call people who you know can pray with you. Because there comes a point in your life that advice doesn't work because you don't even know the answers. Get people around you that you know can stand with you in prayer. I'm talking about the inner circle. And then finally, the confidant. Remember, at the end of Jesus' ministry, or is it at the very peak, when he was being crucified, it was only John who stood there with him. Ideally, if you're married, that should be your spouse. If you're not married, please understand, the moment you say yes to someone, you're literally saying, I'm inviting you past stranger, acquaintance, team, inner circle to become my confidant. Think about that decision and think about it real good. Tonight, I want us to take a moment to really think about the kind of relationships that we have, to think about our identity, to think about our perspective so that we can begin to believe in ourselves and believe in people. It's important, guys. And then to know how to navigate the different levels of relationships. And back to our scripture, Matthew 10:16. Behold, I send you forth as a sheep among the wolves. Be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. At the very end of it all, you can only be able to do all this by the reason of divine wisdom. Ask God for the spirit of discernment. Ask God for wisdom. And more than anything else, I pray that you will learn to be peaceable. As much as it depends on you, live peaceably with everyone. That means be harmless as a dove. I pray that this conversation has empowered you. Let's do this again next week from 8:30 to 9 o'clock. And again, I want to talk to you about a program that I run, the ReAlignment program. We are starting the next class this coming Friday from 8 o'clock to 9:30 thereabout. So kindly get in touch with us on that contact so that we can then have this conversation. But for now, allow me to just acknowledge the people who are on this broadcast tonight. Thank you so much, Augustine Asla. Thank you, Constance. Thank you, Gladys Ivulu. Thank you, Kemunto Onsongo. Thank you so much, lady. Thank you, you, Becky Birunji. Thank you, Usu Ayuko. Peter Ndriga, thank you so much. Ama Ankra Badu, thank you so much, all the way from Accra, Ghana. Halorino Gwang, thank you so much. Evangelist Miriam Kosiorek, Asante Sana Nashukuru. Thank you so much, guys. It's been a great pleasure having you tonight. Until next week, when we meet again, Safari Njema.